So now comes the messy part of paint cones, getting the paint inside the cone. So got a couple different tips to, this is how I do it. So my first tip is I use a bottle, an old water bottle. I've got some pebbles in the bottom of it just to kind of weight it down nicely so it doesn't tip over on you. And I take the paint cone, put it inside the bottle, okay. Now I traditionally use heavy body paint, and I buy it in the tube because the tube is easy to squeeze into the cone. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. A couple of good squeezes here, and the more that you can keep it centered inside the cone, the less messy this will be, or potential for messy that this will be. So right about there I stop, because I'm going to need some room to fold the cone over so I can seal it up real nice and tight with the paint. So right about there is when I stop. Okay, so then I flatten out the top of the cone and put a nice piece of tape right on the top so your paint doesn't escape. And then I fold it down, give it folded a little bit like a present. Doesn't have to be too neat here. You just want it nice and tight so the paint doesn't escape. So when you feel comfortable with, you got a nice little top there, grab another piece of tape, fold it, tape it all the way around, and then we're going to push it towards the tip right there. If you want to do another fold for a nice tight paint cone, you certainly got a little room to do that. You'll be using a lot of tape if you decide to start doing these yourself. A lot of tape. Okay, so there is your cone, full, ready to go. When I don't put pins in the cone. Some people will use a pin. I actually don't use a pin. I like to decide what size point I'm going to want. So this is without any cutting, which makes a nice, very, very thin line. If we want a thicker line, we're just going to cut the tip off. There's going to be a thicker line for you. I also don't put pins inside the cone when I store them. Basically, I clean off the tip a little bit. I put it in an old coffee mug that I don't use anymore, and I just kind of sit it there. So there will be a dry tip. The paint will dry, but that will serve its own cap. So when you want to go ahead and reuse your cone or use it again, you're just going to pull out that tip of dried paint. So at some point, you may decide that the cone isn't working, or you want a finer tip. The best way to get that is put another cone inside the bottle. Put another cone inside the bottle, cut the tip off here, and then squish the old paint into a new cone. And now you haven't wasted any paint.